Thank you so much for tuning back in to Sarita Talks. I've got another guest from out of state. His name is David, and I'm really interested to bring him on and get his perspective and see what he's going to teach us about the legal system. David, can you give us a rundown of who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Yes, I hail from the great city of Philadelphia, brotherly love. And I have an office in my house. I run a small legal firm services to low income and incarcerated people. And I connect them with attorneys, private investigators, human rights advocates, sometimes senators, whoever I can, nonprofits like yourself, to try to help them in their journey of either whatever their situation is, child custody, could be family law, could be somebody who's trying to make parole, commutation, even appeal their cases. We do it all.
That's nice. How long have you been doing this, David?
I've been doing this for about 38 months, and we're
Okay.
really hitting stride now. We're getting a little
Say
bit
that
more
last part. You kind of
exposure.
broke up. You're doing what now?
Yeah, we're hitting our stride now. It's been a
Good.
while of getting the word out and stuff like that, but we're getting a lot of exposure on Google and things like that. People are finding us, and I'd be shameless not to put a blurb in about the
Promote your
new book.
book.
Yes,
Yes.
the new book. It's the Bible. It's a resource on how to find, like I said, attorneys, private investigators, human rights advocates, innocence projects. Excuse me, law firms, people that'll help for either
Right.
low or no cost.
So how do we
Um,
get the book? Amazon?
I prefer that you go on writersrepublic.com. That's where
There we
it was
go.
published, but it's also available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Well, Writers Republic, that's where
Dot
we want to
com.
send them. And so that is basically a directory for legal services. Now, is that only going to be germane to people who are located in the PA area?
That's a very good question. It is not. Um,
Yay.
there are
Good.
a lot of people in the book that I personally had relations with that are here in Pennsylvania. But there's a lot of stuff on there that you can get from other states, and it can be used 1,000 times over because there's links to websites, emails, phone numbers, addresses. People can write to certain places, and it'll lead you to all kinds of different things like the Exoneration Registry or the Innocence Project in Missouri, or it's the Bible for what people need, who don't have the money to pay for a large firm or a high priced attorney.
Good, good. Because let me tell you, I used to tell a lot of my friends who were incarcerated, even out here, that first, without a plan, you plan to fail. And you can have all the faith in the world, but faith without works is dead. So a book like that can be super advantageous on the inside or the outside. And you spoke just a tad about low income, and you stated a lot of different people that can benefit from someone who does what you do. Tell me about child custody and how you might be able to help someone navigate that. And then for the latter part of this question, maybe speak to someone not where you're at who wants to do some outreach, who maybe has some resources, who maybe has a legal background. What's stopping them?
Very good question. First of all, child custody is a big thing here in Philadelphia with single mothers. Life is full of setbacks. That doesn't mean you can't turn it into a comeback. And,
Mm-hmm.
people who are going through experiences with the legal system and they don't know how to, navigate filing the paperwork or what to do, they need an attorney or they need somebody to help them. And the biggest thing that a lot of people I hear is, no one's being sincere about, lending an ear, a compassionate ear to what people are going through, whether it's child custody. It could be someone just got out of prison and they're, like you said in one of your other videos I watched, you have to get shoes on your feet and a shirt on your back
Yes,
before you can get a job and a roof over your head. Uh,
absolutely. And add some kids to the equation. You're going to be in bad shape.
yeah.
You're going to be in
So
bad shape.
my theme is let's turn some setbacks into comebacks here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people, excuse me, out there. I apologize for the cough.
You're okay.
Um, there's a
We
lot,
talked a little bit before this, audience, and he's a little under the weather. So what a blessing he was able to still come share the message from
yeah,
a sincere place. Because I want to circle back to you need someone who's sincere.
correct.
Yes, but go ahead, sir.
And so, to your second part of your question about how can people do what I'm doing, or with a legal background, excuse me. Um, I started with a website. That was the key. You have to get yourself a website. Once you get the website, then you can, start promoting yourself, advertising what it is you do on different platforms, like even this podcasts, Google, through emails, anything. And word of mouth is always the best way to get started. Um, and someone with a legal background, or maybe not a legal background, you know after a small period of time, little windows of opportunity start opening up. You start connecting with people, they start giving you advice, or they give you a connection that you can build off of. And that's how I became successful to the point where I'm at now.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? It really does take a village. It takes a multitude. And I'm a firm believer in you hang out with 10 movers and groovers, you're going to be the next one moving and grooving. You know, it's who
I
you surround yourself with. And don't forget the people that have helped you get to where you are, and bring them right along with you. That's your support system. So, a lot of people that, I know that are still incarcerated, they have families who would love to help them, but they don't know, a lot of people don't know how easily accessible your senator or just legislation in general can be. Can you give me a little background on, now I'm in Missouri and I'm one of the, it's sadly one of the few people that know that I can affect change even though I'm not able to vote. I have a voice and I can speak to a senator. I can speak to a congressman. They have a phone number and sometimes they have staffers. Can you speak to how either a family member or someone who is incarcerated can make that an advantageous relationship or even start to build that relationship? What steps can they take?
That's the key. You just said the magic word, relationships.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had a relationship with a client's father here in Philadelphia who had a strong connection to Senator Sharif Street, very popular senator,
Yeah.
local Philadelphian. His father was the Mayor John Street. And so I was introduced to him and his staff through the client's father.
Mhm.
And it was a productive meeting. And then I found out that his staff has different departments and people that have different roles. Like, they can reach out to someone's incarcerated loved one, or reach out to the prison or the superintendent. They can do an investigation. They can do a wellness check. They can advocate for them.
Oh,
A lot of people don't know that.
I didn't
This.
even know that.
Yeah, your senator is there to represent you. You're his constituent. And if you're his
Yeah.
constituent and you have a loved one who's in prison, well, that doesn't mean he can't help them as well.
Right, right. Because, this is a whole nother tangent, but gerrymandering. So when they go and get those census numbers, they come straight to the prison. And we're 1,400 voters or 1,400 members of the population. So, and in any aspect, if you're going to count us, then please don't count us out. And like I said, that's a whole nother to do. But
I'll give you another brief segue.
sure.
I wanted for the longest time to meet the district attorney of Philadelphia. His name's Larry Krasner. He's always in the news. He's kind of a revolutionary district attorney where he's not pro prosecution and lock him up and throw away the key. His policies are a lot more compassionate, and therefore he gets a lot of controversy. But I found out that he was going to be at a local, it was like a block party in Philadelphia where there was going to be some speakers and there was going to be some food and stuff like that. And I said, you know what? Let me just go down there on a whim and see if I can finally meet Larry
This
Krasner.
yeah.
And so I go down there, and it's the summertime, and there's food, and people are walking, and there's a little stage and getting ready for speakers and stuff like that. And here down the street, He's walking in a hat and sunglasses and regular shirt and pants, khaki pants. You wouldn't even know it was him. And I looked at him and I walked up to him and I said, "Are you Larry Krasner, the district attorney?" He says, "Yes, I am." And I said, "Wow." I said, "I've been wanting to meet you for the longest time." I said, "Do you mind if I get a photo with you?" He was
Mhm.
very cordial. We took a photo together. We talked a little bit about what I'm doing. Then he went up on stage. And that's just an example of, how you can meet people.
Yes, accessible, accessible. And I used to tell people all the time because I tell the story of I was a receptionist, but I was a receptionist at the right place. So I was meeting all the people. And I remember having a conversation and I said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to have to step down from my job." And at the same time, I'm a formerly incarcerated person. I'm going to start telling people and see what I can, do because I'm going to have a little bit more free time. I was unable to keep a full-time job at that time because, my parents were elderly, not doing well, and my mom came to stay with me. And he said, "But, just for selfish reasons, I want you to stay in that job because you're around all the people that can help you." So I made sure to be very intentional about staying in the places and the spaces to where I could be around the people that could institute change, the titans of industry.
Mm.
So you going to that block party, you were putting yourself in the places and the spaces. Now, if I'm currently incarcerated and I've got your book, who do I need to be writing so my letter's getting in those places and spaces?
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't
I
catch the
said,
last.
"Now, if I'm incarcerated and I've got your book, who do I need to be contacting so I can stay in those same places and spaces? So I can build those relationships, so I can keep my network strong?" Because just like you walked up to that gentleman, the DA, and he was kind and welcoming, sometimes you can find that through a letter. I know I've heard of a man, I can't now, God forgive me, I do not know his name. He wrote a letter to the White House and Obama got it.
Mhm.
And do you know who I'm talking about?
No, but
And he
I've
just
heard the
started
story.
this whole ripple effect of being, prosecuted under a drug crime disparity, the crack cocaine disparity. But his letter made it to the White House. So, what are the most important letters I need to be writing and incorporating the book? Tell me the name of the book one more time and show it to me so we
Yes.
can make sure everybody sees it.
Where to find a pro bono lawyer, but it's got so much more in it. I
It's a
mean,
directory,
yeah,
right?
it's a resource, but it's got so much more in it. I mean, for guys who are incarcerated, there's a section with 500 issues you can raise on appeal. I mean, there's just bios and resumes in here
Yeah.
from a lot of local human rights advocates and stuff like that, organizations, innocence organizations. Um, and so, to answer your question, um, you know, just writing a letter to somebody is a good way to start building relationships with people. Now, there's a
Yes.
caveat. If you send one letter to somebody and you don't get a response and you give up,
No.
um, you know, here's the thing. If you're writing a letter to somebody and asking them for a specific request, and maybe they can't honor the request. They may know somebody who can. For example, you reach out to an attorney and say, "Listen, this is what happened to me, and I'm looking for this specific help." That attorney may not be able to help you, but he may know somebody else.
Yeah, so maybe put it in there, and if you can't, please tell me who will. Please
Yes,
help me get to, but like you said, that one letter's not gonna do it. You've
right.
got to put in the work.
You got to
You've
be
got
a.
to
My phrase is this: you got to be a hound dog for justice.
That's
You
right, that's
you
right.
you gotta track every lead down, and you gotta really put in the work. You're right.
Especially when it comes to you personally, or your sister, or your brother, or your cousin, or your mom, or your dad, or your child,
Well, not
like,
only that,
we can yeah, go ahead.
I can't tell you how many people tell me this when I get a call and they found me on Google and they say, "I've talked to 20 lawyers. I've talked to 20 different innocence projects. I've talked to 20 different investigators. And you're the first one who's willing to, give me some assistance, listen to my story, refer me to somebody." And so that's what I'm saying. If the person gave up after the first try or the first or second phone call, they would have never got to me.
Absolutely. Wow. That's powerful. That's powerful. Keep on knocking
Mhm.
and it shall be open. Keep on seeking and you will find.
Yes.
That is so true because let me tell you, I was speaking earlier about some doors that have been closed. And I've talked about that, unable to become a real estate agent, unable to get any certifications through the Department of Mental Health, unable to retain certain housing. Doors are being closed. However, even bigger doors are being opened. And from those doors closing in my face, I'm able to maybe open them later for someone who comes behind me.
And
So I like
not
that.
only that, those doors that are closed now, as time goes on, the more you stay in those spaces, like you said, and you're around those people, I would not be surprised if somebody knocked on your door, called you on the phone, and said, "Hey, look, Soretta, I have,
Sarita.
what is it?
Long E, Sarita.
Sarita. I'm
Sarita.
sorry,
Yeah, but you're not the only one. Go ahead.
Rita, I know someone who's in desperate need of what you do. They really
Okay.
need your help and they're willing to pay you for it, or they're willing to give you a job, or they're willing to do something. I would not be
Yeah.
surprised if that's something that could easily happen in a case like this.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Because guess what? I've been putting in the work. And you know what? Sometimes I say this a lot that there are 1400 plus women. I have to go up dang near every week though because they're locking up so many people that the facility I left is over capacity now. But all those women are depending on me to succeed even if they don't know me. They're depending on someone to set the bar to where hey, these are the things we're capable of. Don't limit us. Don't just put us out here, up the creek without a paddle. So a book like yours would be so advantageous to just even have in a prison library. So maybe someone could shoot you some funds, and buy up, 1,000 books because you put a lot of work in that and you've been 36 months in the making.
Mhm.
So
I would love to see this book on every library shelf in every prison across the United States. And we know that there are way too many prisons in this country, but if that book was there, I guarantee you some people would take advantage of it.
Right. Well, here's the call for action. The
Mhm.
man's information's right there. He's trying to help people. And not everybody, you know what? I used to always be like, hey, people say put your money where your mouth is. Sometimes we can get out there and physically do the work, hands and feet. But if you're not and your heart condition is right, purchase, maybe 10, 15 books and make sure they can get in that prison library because you don't want to come up against that obstacle as well. What comes in and what comes out. But that would be a great way. And I would hope through this show, maybe somebody could facilitate that, because I know how important resource directories are being in prison. A friend of mine, I took her to the law library. She'd been done so terrible, was, basically illiterate. Maybe a few steps above illiterate, coerced into signing, basically her life away. I helped her fill out a clemency. Let me tell you, I had no faith that this clemency was going to go through. But I said, we got to do something. So we went up there and, clemencies take years. So about 2.5 years later, they're like, Sarita, your friend's outside. She's sending for you. Her name's Annette Davis. She wasn't supposed to get out of the facility till 2032. No, she was coming up for parole in 32. I just talked to her last night. She's been out since February. It came February of last year. The clemency came back and said dates and percentages changed. She instantly went to the in-house parole officer and she says, well, you must have slipped through the cracks because your case wasn't even eligible or it wasn't defined by the 85%. So she was immediately eligible for parole. She had slipped through the cracks. If no one would have taken her and showed her, and it was a simple form, which, I took her up there, but I had no faith. I wanted to leave her with some hope, she's out. So imagine if that
Miracle.
book was accessible. Her name's Annette Davis. I need to bring her on. And
Yes, for
well, she's
sure.
a little shy, but I'll see. And
Yeah,
let me tell you
we
now,
need to hear more miracle stories like that.
that is a miracle. Yeah, and she's living her miracle. She's living it. She's living it. Now, leave us with something because we've had a great conversation. I'm going to bring you back on if you'd be willing in the future. But I just want to know what your services are, how they can access them. I'm going to throw some more information out when I put this out for your website, correct? And some more information about you. So when you see this, you can always get that there. But leave us with a good overview of all the great things that Legal Eagles is doing and can do it with additional funding.
Yes, Legal Eagles here in Philadelphia is a revolutionary idea, and that is for people who can't afford high priced attorneys, yet they're not so poverty stricken they can get a free legal aid lawyer.
Mm,
They can come to us and we get them a deep discount, if not, the lowest possible amount of money or fee to get quality representation. Um,
nice.
and we do everything: family law, criminal law, civil law, you name it.
Wow.
We elder fraud, we do it all. And
That's good.
we have a compassionate ear, and we get back to everybody as quickly as we can. We're not this big conglomerate that you'll just call and be a number and nobody will ever get back to you. I hear that a lot. It's very disheartening for people when they're going through an emotional situation. They could be losing their house. We
Oh,
get
man.
people calling a lot of cases, they're losing their house, they're being evicted,
Hmm.
landlord tenant situations. I get to see a lot of stuff on the front lines out here in Philadelphia, and I'm sure it's happening in other cities too. People are going through a lot, and they can reach us at www.legal-eagles.org. It's on your screen, and they can call us at our business number, which is 267-946-2322. Once again, 267-946-2322. My email is dave@legal-eagles.org.
Good.
So you can find us on Google, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on YouTube, and we do podcasts when we can. We're trying to build up
Yeah.
build up
Well,
our reputation.
the way you said that number, that sounded like a commercial. So maybe that's coming down the line too. Now
Yeah.
show us your book one more time because I really would love for someone who has the means to be able to coordinate and get this book in every penitentiary
Yes.
because we are good people. And I just told you absolutely true story. Her name's Annette Davis out of Kansas City, Missouri, and luckily was able to get out on just a piece of paper. So great. Thanks for coming on, Dave.
Yes. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be on your show.
Absolutely. This is Sarita Talks. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for learning a little bit more about how to help sincerely. I love that. And can't wait to spend some time with you next time. Bye.
All right.